I'm Naomi Ray, and this is How to Get Ahead in the Art World, a new mini-series from ArtNet News, bringing you actionable career advice from insiders who have built lasting success in the industry. This week, I'm joined by someone who's made a career and a lifestyle out of bold moves, Loic Gouzer. Known for his appetite for risk in high-stakes environments, Loic brings the same energy to business that he does to adventure, whether he's surfing in Montauk or spearfishing with sharks. He's the auction rainmaker behind the $450 million sale of Salvator Mundi, the most expensive painting ever sold. And he's not done yet. After shaking things up at Christie's, he launched Fair Warning, a private auction app that is built around a radical idea: trust your gut. Today, we're talking about how to take professional risks and how to know when a risk is actually worth it. Loic's unconventional style and instinct-driven deals make him the perfect case study in taking big swings and making them count. All right, Loic, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm really thrilled to have you on to talk about risky business and taking creative and professional risks. Now, the art world knows you as someone who's not afraid to take a big leap. So can you tell me about the biggest professional risk that you've ever taken?
I would say probably two professional risks directly having to do with my work. The first one, everybody, of course, will think and remember the Da Vinci, which was a big risk, and I'll get back to that later. But the main one was the first time I did a curated sale. That was when I was really coming up with the orthodoxy and came up with this idea of launching a curated sale or thematic sale. At the time, it had not really been done, and I was still really young in the business, and nobody knew me that well. And so having the idea and executing the idea is one thing, but executing it, that was, I would say, a pretty big risk, because you kind of have to announce it in order to get the energy and the traction and people understanding what you're trying to do. But the moment you announce it, there's no coming back. So I would say that the first sale, called If I Live, I'll See You Tuesday, the title was based on a Richard Prince joke by the same name, If I Live, I'll See You Tuesday. And it was perfect because that auction was on a Monday. I always did those things constantly. I played on the idea that it was all in, and if it didn't work, I would have to take a flight to Argentina or take it out of the auction houses. I had several risk-taking opportunities in my life that I kind of took every time, but that was a pretty big one. I think the Da Vinci auction was also continuing in that trajectory of trying to push the envelope.
I mean, hugely push the envelope.
Yeah, and that was something that was outside everyone's comfort zone, especially mine, because I'm no all-master expert. I had to first convince the all-master team to join this adventure and this crazy story, which we had no idea how it would unfold and if it was possible to execute. And the whole world was watching. And again, once you go, you can't come back. Again, this was a project that was a lot of people were involved with. And what I said to the whole team involved with the project was, you kind of have to imagine that we are on a motorbike and we are trying to jump across the Grand Canyon. So once we go, we have to take as much speed as possible. And especially at the moment we are in the air, we just can't look back, because then we'll crash in the bottom of the canyon. So we just have to take as much speed as we can and just be focused on getting as much energy and hopefully make it on the other side. From the moment we announced it, it really felt like the analogy was very real, and it felt that the precipice under our legs was enormous. So I would say these are the two main risks I've done, but I could give you a compilation of risks I've taken.
That's incredible. I mean, what an upside, what a reward, the most expensive painting ever sold. I mean, where do you go from there?
I always say as when you work in an auction house, you're kind of a horse racer, or even those greyhounds and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere that in order to make them run, they have to chase a fake rabbit. And sometimes, by accident, they catch it. And apparently when they catch it, then they realize the rabbit is just made out of plastic. They never run again. So sometimes it seems like you catch the rabbit. For a moment, it looks like it's plastic, but then you have to either invent yourself a new rabbit or a new meaning and a new challenge. I have a quite anxious, neurotic personality, so I need a certain dose of stress in my life and uncertainty to be level. If things are too easy, I start having anxiety. So I guess I got to a place where I didn't want to end up being too comfortable. I don't like being comfortable, and I needed new challenges, not just from an auction perspective, but also from a personal growth perspective and so forth. So that's why, I left and moved on.
You got to keep things exciting. I totally get that. And I guess you follow your instincts to lead to the next step. You've been described, I think, as somebody who leads with instinct, whether that's picking a painting or launching your app, Fair Warning, or indeed leaving a major auction house at a career high. So, what does following your instincts actually look like for you? Is it a physical feeling or a mental process? How do you know when to trust your instincts?
I think the art business in general, and when you're involved with the art market, instinct is key, and it's probably one of the main business in the world where the percentage of instinct is the greater. I don't know. I imagine if you're a movie producer and you have to greenlight a movie on a gut feeling, it's probably similar because there's a bit of data and empirical evidence that you can get, but it's not that much. I always said 30% of your decision making can be by using data. The other 70% is relying on your instinct or the gut. I do think it's probably structural. If you don't operate that way, you probably fail to be successful, because I do think that the art world and the art market is one of the governing forces is the magic. And the magic is that space where the rational mind can't really act. And it's in that space that crazy decisions are being taken, and the buyers, that's how they operate. The real collector, maybe not the classic speculator that we've seen in recent years, but a real collector during the auction, at some point, if the work is great, he will not care that much about the data. If he feels the work in his gut, he's going to go for it. When you consign works, and you have to think that way. And I like this analogy with fly fishing. I love to fly fish. I like to fish in general, but when you fly fish, the best fly fishermen are the guys who actually get into the mindset of the fish. You have to know where he's going to be and how you're going to make him rise up to the fly. It's the same thing when you get a painting. You're trying to be in the mindset of a collector and understand if this is going to be the moment where he's going to rise up to that specific fly or artwork. The good thing is that I'm a collector myself. Every penny I make, I put back into art. Every time I do a deal, I always imagine, is this something that I would want for myself if I had sold my company for $1 billion and so forth. So, and I always tried to convey to the people that work with me or for me, yes, use the data, but then leave it on the side and try to really feel and use your heart to continue the process and ultimately take your decision. I do think that one of the problem right now, since art has become this asset class and everybody's trying to quantify it, and there is such an influx of data and people thinking with numbers and not being able to think anymore or feel anymore. Actually, that's more the word. And what happens with that is that when you start doing this, then you lose the magic. And once you lose the magic, then people are complaining why the market is having a trouble in terms of price. It doesn't really have a trouble, in my opinion, in terms of, or it has one, but it has one because it's a magic problem.
I imagine that feeling's a familiar one. Where does it live? When you've got your data and you're pushing, you're on the precipice. Is it a feeling in the stomach or in your cheeks?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the chest, stomach. It's fleeting, and then it becomes quickly an obsession, and then soon enough a neurosis, basically, until I can either convince the owner of the work or the buyer of the work or the shareholders of the company to make it happen, basically. Yeah.
And you can be quite relentless, I've heard. I want to talk a little bit about rules and kind of breaking them. In the past, I think the art world seems to have rewarded people who play well by the rules, people who've kind of built slow and steady careers, managed their relationships very carefully, and displayed a deference for hierarchy. But that may be changing, and breaking the rules certainly seems to have worked for you. Do you think that the art world is now kind of favoring a different sort of mindset, one that's a bit more entrepreneurial or self-driven?
I'm not sure it's no different than ever. I do think that they say history is written by the winner, and I would say I could add to that that the rules are also written by the guys who own the power. So I do think that if you just do what you're being told to do, you go nowhere. I've seen people that I've started working with who've been really going by the book, and they haven't gone that far. They'll probably get there, but they'll be pretty old by the time they get there. And so breaking the rules per se is going to lead you nowhere. I would say you have to understand the rules, you have to understand the game, and you have to master the game. And then once you do that, you can break the rules on top of it. It's similar to artists. Some of the greatest artists that we remember are artists that broke the rules, but often they learned the rules and they mastered those rules and they studied with masters throughout art history until they got to the point that they knew that they could go to the next step. I see that when people break the rules too quickly in a career, it just leads to getting kicked out. And when you break the rules as an artist, when you don't understand the rule and you don't understand art history, you just produce nothing, or you also make mistakes from a market point of view that might be costly and break your career forever. So there's also no recipe. My dad always told me there are people who take risks and people who don't. No judgment, but I do think that it's no different from when I started. From today, the guys who have the power have a lot of power, and they write the rules. And if you want to come through, you have to reinvent your own story and so forth.
Let's stay there. Let's stay with kind of where you started, your kind of early career. You've talked about kind of pretending to be a sauna band and hustling in kind of various different ways to get into the right rooms with the right people. So how did you find the confidence to maneuver in those types of spaces before you had either a title or track record behind you? Was it a kind of fake it till you make it situation?
Yeah, I do think that a little, not too much, but it's like everything is a sauce, but a little faking it until you make it can be helpful sometimes. When you start, you're trying to come up for air somewhere and be taken seriously. And I think for 5 minutes when you're a kid, it's okay to bullshit a bit and be a slight brat. But again, you have to create stuff out of nothing. But then once you create stuff, then it's really important to build on it. And every time you create an action, you're going to create a result. And it's almost like rock climbing, or you put your foot on it and you go to the next little nook. And that's how I guess you build your career. And that's one thing that I've seen in my career, is that sometimes you create a situation that leads you to another one. And you should always try to do those connections. First, recognize them. But then when you see it, just really make that connection. At some point, you have trains that pass in front of you, or they stop and you can jump on them. And if you don't jump on them, that's where the mistakes are made. If you miss the train that you could have taken, and some people either fail to see the train, or some people, in my opinion, see the train but are a bit scared of where it's going to lead to. And I think these are the mistakes. We all get a set of trains that are sent our way. It can be that your boss is sick, so you have to fly to Hong Kong to meet that collector, or or the boss is having an issue, and then he's like, you have to deal with this situation and you have to make it happen. Little trains and bigger trains, and sometimes you get an offer from someone, could be me calling you and saying, hey, I see potential in you. Do you want to settle for the status quo, or do you want to take it? And then I hear, often it's like, well, I have my 401k and I have this, and just like it's building right and so forth. And, maybe it's not the right opportunity, but I do feel that when a train comes like that, you should consider it very seriously, and often you should take it. I do believe that, again, to come back to this risk conversation, embracing a bit the unknown is always better than embracing the known.
So it seemed like, in some situations being, quite cheeky paid off for you. But the art world does have a lot of kind of closed networks. And if you were kind of giving advice to someone who's trying to break into one of those closed networks, any tips that you could pass along?
It's always the same. I would say you have to get out there and you have to interact, learn, and specialize in the field. Focus on one artist, two artists, five artists, know everything about them. It's easy to know more about something than anyone else because everybody's so scattered, especially these days. So if suddenly you're bringing something to the table, people will want to start talking to you. So it's a mixture of everything, of knowledge, of kindness, of guts, of being brash, or we talk about attention economy and so forth, but it's always been like that. You have to create a situation where the attention is on you so you can then take the conversation and bring it where you want to go. Staying on your at home on your phone is not gonna be so helpful. I think going out there and pushing yourself when you feel uncomfortable, usually you're doing things right, I would say.
We've talked a lot about risks that paid off, and some of them in very, very big ways. But can you tell me what's one risk that you have taken that you regret?
There are for sure deals that I did and I didn't listen to my gut, or I did it based on FOMO because the other auction house just had a big painting and so forth for the wrong reason. So there are deals that I regret doing. Generally, I don't regret any of the risks that I've taken. What I regret, those risks come with a cost, very stressful. The whole Da Vinci thing is all fun to talk about it right now, but it was extremely stressful. And sometimes I feel I wish I'd learned to enjoy more the process. All of life, especially work life, is like a big video game, and especially in our world, you have to every day, almost as a discipline, remind yourself that it's just the art market. We're not saving lives and so forth, but therefore we should also enjoy it and enjoy the moment. And that I wish I had learned how to do earlier, and I'm still trying to learn how to do it today. It's easy to talk about it. It's hard, at least for me, to enjoy the process.
Great perspective to have. And talking about enjoying oneself, there's a lot of talk today about building one's personal brand. I know that the art world can sometimes be a little bit allergic to that kind of language, but I do want to get real. Like, we can't ignore that it's a dimension of what we do, especially when you have the reach of platforms like Instagram these days. I mean, I've seen you sell a $500,000 painting with a disappearing Instagram story. So I want to ask you how you've approached kind of shaping your public facing persona, both online and offline.
I never had a plan, and I don't know, Instagram came and social media, and it was fun when we were at Christie's, and all those things were fun, especially at the beginning, because there was no copyright needed, which anything we wanted to do before, we had to like ask for copyright, pay for copyright, wait for copyright. Especially if you were not the boss of the company, the boss was the only one who was able to communicate about what was going on, and suddenly you had this new tool that allowed you to break all those rules in total impunity. And you could be a spokesman for Christie's when you were like I don't know, 20-year-old kid. And you could also show the works the way you saw it. I do think that I enjoyed the process at first. So there was no plan. I was just like honestly being authentic and doing what I had no strategy. And that's a bit how I am. In general, like, I'm not deliberate about a lot of things. I'm deliberate about building an auction and so forth. And I strategize, but not on the rest of life. I'm just completely aloof. I don't know what good filters are. I don't know what my angle is. I don't know all the stuff that people like overthink. I always thought that Instagram and social media were like supposed to be a stream of consciousness. Now I think it kind of changed. I still operate that way because it's the only way that I operate, but it's not the most successful way now because back then authenticity was fine. I guess the algorithm were just letting do whatever you wanted to do. Now the algorithms are asking you to do things that are not authentic, that are not me. I have some sense of what I wouldn't have to do in order to get huge following and traction and pull and so forth. That would be answering to the demands of the algos. And today the question is, do you follow those rules? That's a new type of rules because the algo rules, you just can't break them. There's just no other place. An antitrust thing going on right now in Washington, I think, about that, but there's just no other place where you can operate. So we end up in this world where you can't be authentic anymore, and everybody's kind of ending up being the same. And we're all watching the same content, and we're all eating burratas in restaurants all around the world, and everything is being planed. And that is another problem of the art market. I think it's suffering a lot from the algorithm. The algorithms are shaping the way people are looking at art. I don't think in a good way. And also, it's just if everybody starts thinking the same way, then that's another place where the magic goes away. So I would say screw your followers and all that stuff. Just do whatever you want. And if you have 1 million followers, because your authenticity happens to align with the current algorithm, great. But I do think that your authenticity in life will ultimately transcend whatever set of online rules you decide to deliberately abide by.
What about off of social media? What about kind of just like presence?
It comes back to what I was saying earlier. I do think that what people respect is knowledge. And if you can learn and be an authority, and that's the advice I would give to anyone starting in an auction house, for instance, but even in a gallery, just take 1, 2, 3, 4 artists and just learn everything you can about them. Just become the expert in your office, or the expert on your blog, or the expert in your city, or the expert in the world. Become the Basquiat guy. Become the guy who knows where every single painting is, what he did during every single year, and so forth. That has value because I do think, suddenly wake up or they see something again coming back to social media that is hot, that is did, but all that comes and goes. But at the end of the day, people will always come to real information. You might say that now with ChatGPT, you don't need it. Probably one day you'll get the expertise. Not there yet. You may get information, but it's no expertise. The great thing is it's free. It's just there to be taken. You just go to the library, you just go to the museum, and you can choose your subject. The people that I really respect in my world are the people who know the most.
I want to take us back to the conversation about risk, because we were talking earlier, I felt my heart started pumping, kind of responding to you speaking about risk. And I think, the listeners probably too, someone's listening today and they're sitting on their own bold idea, something that's unconventional or maybe even a little bit scary. What would you say to them to kind of push them over the edge and do it?
I can give you a practical example. So, fair warning, it was very risky to start. We started it during COVID. It was a risky period. Having another auction house or a different kind of auction house, it's never been done before. Then I got some health issues, Lyme and so forth. So I had to stop doing fair warning for 2 or 3 years. And when I was thinking of restarting it, and I just had a moment where I could take it easy and advise some people here and make a good living that way and chill. But I also know the advising part is just not what I like and it's not stimulating for me. And I knew that I would probably be comfortable, but probably miserable. I knew that relaunching fair warning in a complex market climate would be tricky and be a lot of work, a lot of stress and so forth. But, one friend of mine who's a extremely successful entrepreneur, told me one day, if you don't do it, you're going to regret it way more than if you actually do it and it actually fails. If you don't take it, you'll never know. So I would say if you have a big, bold idea and like everything, you always have to check that you're not having a psychotic episode. That's why you test and you try your idea, and you will always have people who say it's a bad idea, but you try to get as close as possible and feel you're close enough, but you will never get all the answers. Then you go. It's like jumping over the Grand Canyon, and you need the speed and you need to not look back.
I love that. Check your vitals and then go for it. Take the leap. I think we leave it there. Thank you so much, Loic, for coming on and sharing your thoughts. It's been really inspiring and a fun conversation.
Hope it was helpful. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to catch the next episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're enjoying the series and want more on the business side of art, subscribe to Art Market Minute. How to Get Ahead in the Art World is produced by Sonia Manalili in partnership with Art Market Mentors.